So now this brings us to another idea. So now the idea of if you get Omicron and then it gives you immunity to COVID, natural immunity, should you try to get it? I mean, and what if you have a booster? So like if you're vaccinated and that gives you protection from severe illness from Omicron, so should you go try to get it? So here's what he says. I'm not saying you should. Here's what he says.
Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, will announce the end of all restrictions by the end of the week.
So they're ending all the COVID restrictions, I think today, in the UK. And so here's what he says.
And this means that people that are still protected by vaccination can be exposed to Omicron while they are still enjoying high levels of protection against severe illness and death, and they'll become re-immunized. They'll develop much better immunity as a result of the natural Omicron infection while still enjoying natural immunity, not natural immunity, vaccine immunity. They'll develop natural immunity while still enjoying vaccine immunity. If we waited, if Mr. Johnson put it off, say, for 3 months, then by that time, me, for example, the efficacy of my vaccine 3 doses that I've already had will be declining. So it makes more sense to me that I get Omicron soon rather than later while I still have good levels of protection. I can't advise you what to do. I'm just talking about me. But that was what makes more sense to me. The people that are still at risk, of course, are those that are unvaccinated at all, which is probably about 9% of the UK population. So wherever you are, I think that actually that same thinking does apply, and the deaths will start going down. They're going down in the.
So isn't that interesting? People are giving Boris Johnson a lot of guff because they're saying that he's just doing this for politics. But here he is saying that it makes sense to do it to open up and let people get exposed to Omicron while they still have protection from the vaccine. He's saying if we waited 3 months, their protection from the vaccines would wane, and then they'd be exposed to Omicron, and then there'd be more severe illness. Do you follow the logic? I certainly do. And so, Ken, we're not telling anybody to go out. We're not giving anybody any medical advice here. We're not telling you to go out and get the Omicron. We're not telling you it's good for you or bad for you. I'm just telling you that it seems logical that if you get exposed to it now while you have protection, that would be better than being exposed to Omicron while you don't have protection from the vaccine. So that is super interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is. So people are like, oh, well, so people are still running around with masks trying not to get Omicron. Now, that's up to you. Now, if I had my druthers and if I had to catch a strain of this virus, I would prefer to be Omicron, because then I would get immunity from COVID and especially from Delta, which is much more deadly. And by the way, they don't think that the Omicron variant came from Delta. Where did it come from? They always say, oh, the unvaccinated are making the virus mutate. It mutated, they think, in a mouse. They think Omicron came from mice. And that's why you can't vaccinate your way out of this pandemic, because the virus lives in animals. And then it jumps from animals to humans. That's another thing that people who are pro-mandate and pro-lockdown don't understand. They don't understand the first thing about any of this scientifically. That's the sad thing. And a dumb pothead like me does. So, because it's not that hard to understand. But there you go. And by the way, this is, I want to tell you this. LA County Department of Health is issuing a new health order allowing vaccinated people to take off masks indoors at places that check for proof of vaccination. None of that makes there's no science behind that. If you're vaccinated, it's proven you're most likely still going to get Omicron, and then when you get it, you can still infect others. That's according to Fauci. Even Fauci knows that now. But apparently, Janice Hahn, from talking about the LA Department of Health, they don't know that. The people at the LA Department of Health, they don't know that. That doesn't make... So that'd be like if I walked into a place and I said, oh boy, I just tested positive for COVID, but here's my vaccine card. Can I come in and sit down without a mask? They'd have to say yes, because that's the guidance. Hey, I just tested positive for it. I probably have it, but here's my vaccine card, so I don't need to wear a mask and I can come in your establishment and sit down. And yes. Do you see how dumb that is? Because that's not science. There's no science here. And there hasn't been around a lot of this stuff. This puts significantly closer aligning with the state. What does that have to do with anything? So, and here is the CDC Director. COVID vaccines can't prevent transmission anymore. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said in an interview on CNN that COVID-19 vaccines are no longer effective at preventing transmission. That's from them. That's not from me. I'm not saying that. YouTube says that the vaccine, I have to tell you that it does help reduce transmission and contraction. So that's, or I'll still take my channel down. But so according to YouTube, she's wrong. But that's what she's saying. So I'm just reporting what she's saying. I'm not telling you she's right. So YouTube will take my channel down. I'm just telling you that's what the CDC Director said, and YouTube says it's wrong. Okay. So there I gave you provided enough context. Okay, so there you go. Two interesting stories about Omicron. And Bill Gates is a criminal and a psychopath. Here we're doing stand-up in Houston and Dallas on the 24th and the 22nd of March. And we're doing stand-up in Los Angeles, March 4th and 6th. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for all our live shows.